Hey guys, Mark Sloan here from HomeRecordingStudioSecrets.com, and we got another episode from the mailbag. Today we're going to talk about home studio design. Now we get a lot of questions about this, so I want to kind of break down some of the key points we want to look at when designing our home studios. First of all, there's certain requirements that we got to meet. Now it's important to have a good design because you want to get the best possible sound from your project, and a lot of that's going to come into play here. Now, you don't need to put millions of dollars in your space. You just need to know basic acoustic techniques and apply them as easily as you can. Now, first we need to figure out the location for our project studio. You should try to pick a place that doesn't have a lot of outside noise. So if you live by a freeway or subway, you might want to consider not making that the place for your studio. Now, if you have no choice, there are some things you can do to kind of bust down the excess noise, such as barriers. Now, you may have to build walls to reduce some of your sound leakage. And you can do this by you got a couple options. You could put up a massive wall structure, and some of the building materials you might want to use to do this would be brick, concrete, glass, wood, steel. Basically, there's a lot of options here, but you wanna try to keep that noise from leaking out in most situations. Now, concrete would have to be the thickest and most solid material, but obviously that's not going to be possible in all scenarios. Gypsum plasterboard would also be a good alternative, and that's pretty cost effective. Now, moving on, in your home studio, you should also be aware of flooring. So you might experience some leakage, for instance, to a downstairs neighbor, and you in turn might interfere with maybe some of your quieter neighbors, and that could, of course, lead to some issues. Now, with this in mind, a cost-effective way for isolating your floor is layering the floor with carpet foam pad that is rubberized. Now, on top of the pad, you would lay plywood, or you could stabilize this by using glue or metal braces. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to nail the plywood down to the floor, so obviously because you're going to have some issues maybe there. So after you've done all this, you would put another foam pad over the structure and top that with your choice of either carpet or another material that works for you. Now, another handy way to isolate yourself while singing without your sound leaking would be to have an acoustic partition. Now, with an acoustic partition, also known as a flat, you would put the musician on one side with the mic and the partition, and the mic and the partition would enclose the musician. Now, you can easily buy one of these partitions, but you can also make your own using items you have around the house. If you have a microphone boom stand, you can place that at 90-degree angle where it looks like it's in the shape of a T. Then place a blanket or some sort of thick material over the stand, and there you have your cheap but useful partition. Now, this is kind of down and dirty, but it does do the trick, if you're on a tight budget and can't afford to actually build an enclosure for the acoustics. Now, if you want to crank up your amp and get the sound that you want, you can make a mini isolation booth. All you have to do is make an insulated box to put your amp in, or you can put your guitar amp and drums in a closet nearby and run a cord from there to the recorder. Now, make sure that you get balanced cords because you don't want the signal to be too low. Last but not least, after you've figured out how to isolate your room, you're going to need to be comfortable in order to make those Grammy Award-winning hits. Now, a good setup is to use an L-shaped desk. You want to get your most comfortable chair and your workstation set up so that you can easily get around and access all the important components within arm's length. Now, if you have a lot of room, you can also try utilizing a U-shaped desk. And what's important here is that you can get to all your components easily, and it's a comfortable situation there because you're probably going to be spending some time. All right, guys, that about does it for this episode. To get some more great information on home studio design, be sure to check out the link in the show notes here. And we got a lot more great stuff for you. So until I see you next time, keep jamming.